As the world closely watches the developments of Trump's peace plan, Russia has already made it clear they will not make any concessions. And today in our studio we are joined by Leo Kunnas, Deputy Chairman of National Defense Committee and a member of Estonian Parliament. Mr. Kunnas, welcome to our program.
Thanks for calling me.
Alongside with the American peace plan, we also have, as media reports, a European peace proposal. And the European Commission has already highlighted 3 red lines for Europe in negotiations. Borders cannot be changed by force. There should be no limitations on Ukrainian armed forces, and all Ukrainian children taken by Russia must be returned. What is Estonian position on this peace proposal, especially European one, and do you think it's realistic?
Actually, of course, we support those points, but there are more points which are important to Ukraine. For example, you can't give up any territories. Russia wants Donetsk Oblast, but you can't give that up from very different view. Because for purely military point of view, if you will give up your fortified lines in Sloyansk, Kramatorsk area, you will be in trouble, and Russia will have good preconditions to start new war. Actually, I think about guarantees that no one can guarantee right now you anything, because all those guarantees are simply slips of paper. We remember Budapest Memorandum, where big powers guaranteed your sovereignty and territorial integrity. What happened after 20 years? Any sort of peace deal will last until the time when President Trump leaves his office or China attacks Taiwan and drags US and world to other war, which of course Russia will uses in his benefit. So any sort of ceasefire or peace can be made only according with current contact line. There are no other realistic options possible.
And from the history, as we know, this Russian war against Ukraine actually started in 2014, and then the full-scale invasion in 2022. So, as you already made a statement that there should be no territorial concessions from Ukrainian side. One simple question, I think especially for our American viewers who hear about this Trump's peace plan, do you think the giving up on Donbass will actually satisfy Moscow?
I don't think that Moscow will be satisfied with that, because Moscow's aim is clear: to restore empire. That is their goal, and they will just go on until they think that they will achieve that goal. But Ukraine is simply too big piece for that. Russia didn't. They have fought. That's 12 years now. But what they achieved really, they didn't achieve any victory. Actually, what Ukraine achieved. In Finland, there is a term called torjuntavoitto, which means deterrence victory, which Finland acquired in year of 40 when they lost a little bit more than 1/10 of the territory, but they just repelled the aggression and kept their independence and sovereignty. That victory Ukraine already achieved, and there is no point to give that simply away. Russia, of course, according to Gerasimov's doctrine, they use all means. And if they didn't achieve a military victory, they want to achieve no diplomatic victory. But goal is always the same. So we see that here.
And we also know from the Western intelligence and Russia's ongoing hybrid attacks on European states and also continued massive strikes on Ukrainian peaceful cities. And it seems that Russia is not serious about these peace negotiations at all. And some analysts even draw a clear parallel with the events of 1938 when Chamberlain ceded part of Czechoslovakia to Hitler. Do you see relevant this comparison?
I'm a little bit laughing about that because let's guess that the Czechs just fought 4 years, and after 4 years of fighting, somebody offered them the deal. What would Czechs just say if frontline would be somewhere in Sudeten mountains? Of course, they would say no. That is simply not reasonable and even possible to offer something that to Ukraine after 4 years of fighting against large-scale aggression and actually almost 12 years fight of Russian different levels of aggression before that. So I see that there is simply not possible anymore these sort of things. But what will your people say? What will your soldiers say? They will ask, "Oh, what we fought in this war," and basically, if really, which I do not believe, of course, personally, that your president would agree with those absolutely unrealistic terms, what would your people do with him? That's of course your question, but that's, I guess, very interesting question.
Yeah. Another question. You already say that no one can promise guarantees for Ukraine at this stage, but if at least Americans already talk about this peace plan, do you see any potential guarantees from their side, or what can Europe even propose to Ukraine? Because now it's clear NATO membership for Ukraine is off the table, and at least what we see is a potential EU membership, but it doesn't guarantee a security, right?
Of course, NATO membership would be a serious guarantee, but NATO works in a consensus principle. If there are countries who will not agree with this, so that will not happen. It means that there will be no any sort of guarantees. Basically, you have two guarantees: strong wartime army, and of course that second one is my personal opinion and does not represent any sort of Estonian official view, but you should have independent nuclear deterrent. There are only two guarantees which would guarantee your independence and sovereignty, and there is nothing else in this world which would do that.
I also want to move to the topic of the hybrid war against NATO member states, against even Estonia. What is the current mood in Estonia regarding security? Because we know that Baltic states have repeatedly been targets of Russian hybrid attacks, and intelligence from various countries also say that the possible conflict between Russia and European NATO countries could be in 2029, 2030. How vulnerable do you think Estonia right now, and Baltic states and European states?
Actually, there is nothing new for Estonia concerning different kind of Russian hostile activities. We have seen that during all 34 years after regaining our independence. So we are just taking that with, I may say, with fortitude, and of course some small fear is always based on fortitude. So of course we are taking all this seriously, and we will increase more of our wartime army, and it will rise to 55,000. We are calling approximately 15,000 men in each year to refresher training. We will rise our defense expenditure up to 5.4% of GDP, which makes 2.4 billion euros. But of course, what is our problem? Estonia is size of Crimea. Crimea is 42,000 square kilometers. Estonia is 45,000. In Crimea, before the annexion, there approximately 2 million of people lived. In Estonia, we have little bit less than 1.4 million people, but from them is only 1.2 million of citizens we can actually use in our wartime army. So you see that Estonia is in the size of a Ukrainian oblast and not the bigger one. And whole Baltics, we are in the size of Donbass. So we do not have much depth. So what we do, we will prepare hope the best, but prepare to the worst. And of course, if I will compare those numbers, that 55,000 for you means that you will have wartime army of more than 2 million. And if we would not be members of the NATO, we should have wartime army of 100 to 120,000 people, which means 4 to 3 million for you. War is always total for smaller countries. Better 1 year tough total effort instead of that long war of attrition you have right now. But of course, war is already ongoing, and you have very big difficulty. This just reorganizing your for example, your mobilization system, your training system, some other necessary systems, just to get your forces more combat capable. That is very hard to do during wartime. But of course, what is may be lesson learned from our independence war of 1918 to 20. In order to win the war, you need a good and strong policy. With good and strong political leadership, you can win the war. But you see, you need, how I delicately say, much more effort in this field. And no one, not any other country, not any other people can do that effort for you. And what I also wonder is that you are not calling men of 19 to 25 to serve. My son just finished high school last year. So they had 20 boys in their class. 17 of them went immediately to serve after this. Only one guy who decided to study medicine, because there are different programs for them. So there was pointless to him to just appear the service. And 2 guys just went to study abroad, one in Great Britain, another in Japan, so they couldn't join. But all other guys just went to serve and got their wartime postings now. And my son is studying law now in Tartu University, but he's basically ready to serve in his unit, in his wartime unit, if there is necessary. So effort must be total. So otherwise you can't win your war. And no financial and no military help from other countries can do that for you. You must do that purely by yourself. In war, unfortunately, every nation is alone. And of course others can help, but they can't just fight instead of you. So that is simple true. Of course, Estonia, we will do all in our ability just to help you in this war, as we did before. But you see, in Europe, situation is not the best one, because after then the Cold War, there was long period of pacifism and downgrading the armies, defense expenditure, everything, and it will take time just to restore. There are some exceptions, some strong countries like Finland and Poland is getting stronger, but that is not rule, that is exception. Big countries are comparatively weak if we will think their populations, economies, GDPs. They simply do not have enough strong wartime armed forces, and it will take another 10 years for them to create an army which they will need today. So that is Europe's problem. US, we know, has enough military capabilities, but right now US do not have enough political will. So Europe has political will, but does not have enough strong wartime armies, enough, does not spend yet enough, and also does not have enough will. Of course, countries may have political will, but let's think about, for example, discussions in Germany. If they are just discussing to increase the wartime army, they need just restart conscription, and there are problems. So they must just overcome those problems. But of course, Estonia can't just solve any problems for other countries and all bigger countries. And we know that if peace will be really concluded in really negative terms, then countdown will start for us. So that's fairly obvious, and there is no point to see things here better as they are.
And talking about, so now Donald Trump is in power for 1 year, and his objective was Europe to spend more on defense. As you already said, that there is still limitations from European side. If we see the scenario when the US decide to leave its army, its troops from European continent, do you think that Europe is prepared to take a greater responsibility for its own defense?
Europe can do that, but that will cost approximately 2 trillion of euros in next 10 years just to replace all those capabilities US have here. For example, like space defense forces, ballistic missiles, intelligence systems, many more different assets. It will take great effort and great time, but of course that will be possible. But I don't think that US will do anything very rapidly. That is clear that there is nothing new here about US intentions to put their emphasis, their center of gravity to the Pacific and to China. Already Obama talked about that, but Europe did not take seriously enough all this. So we just, as continent, I don't mean Estonia or me, we're too slow just to adjust to those new realities which emerged gradually. But I think that your president is acting wisely. You can't just say direct and harsh no to the president of the United States, because the United States are simply too powerful just to afford something this. But I think and I hope that you will just standing for your national interests so good and so far as you did until now, also today and in the next week and then in the future.
Talking about Estonia, is Estonia prepared to shoot down Russian drones and respond effectively to provocations which we saw the last months and previous months?
We have seen some provocations concerning violations of our airspace, for example. But there are certain rules which are in NATO we apply concerning air surveillance and air defense. We have a NATO common air defense system, and decisions are taken by appropriate command structures just concerning certain situations. And I think that those in those cases, for example, when three MiG airplanes just violated our airspace for 12 minutes, all those decisions were made right. Just measures we used were appropriate. And of course, it depends how NATO's command and control structure in our air defense fields estimates Russian intent and capabilities. So those decisions are made according to those estimates, and so far NATO air defense command and control system clearly demonstrated that we are just ready to act.
I also would like to discuss the support for Ukraine from European side for the next year. Do you think Europe capable to provide this at least financial support? Because we see the lack of willingness from the American side. But now for Ukraine, for the next year, it's crucial to have support from European partners.
Of course, I can't talk in behalf of European countries. I can talk behalf of myself and in limited way in part of Estonia. But of course, if European big countries have enough will, they have enough financial means to support you. In roughly each war year, you need approximately 100 billion of euros or dollars just to support both your armed forces and keep your country functioning. That is what you need. Can Europe support in this scale? Yes, they can if they will. But concerning will, you must just show clear improvements concerning your corruption problems. Otherwise, if big European powers will just estimate that we do not see that our money is wisely and honestly spent, so there will be much harder to gain further support. That is, you must just, your leadership and people must clearly recognize and then address that problem. So That is what I have to say here.
One of the ways to support Ukraine is to put sanctions on Russia. And from your perspective, do you think these sanctions effective enough, especially do you think Russians feel these sanctions on their battlefield?
They feel those sanctions, but definitely they are not enough. But what Europe should do, simply not buy Russian oil and gas, but some countries are still willing to do that. So here is the problem. And of course, concerning Europe can't do in the same time or simultaneously two different things: to prepare European defenses and support Ukraine, and in the same time subsidize a large amount of energy production in Europe. That is, those two things, to do those in the same time is not possible. So Europe must clearly rethink about their so-called green policies, because those two things are simply not possible to do in the same time. So there will be not enough money just for both of those policies. So here is a major problem for all Europe.
Estonia is one of the leading countries in supporting Ukraine, and we really, in Ukraine here, we really appreciate and thank to Estonian people and to members of the parliament and the government for this support. And we also know that Estonia participates in several coalitions, including the IT coalition and the drone coalition. Could you share some outcomes from these projects?
What I may say, we just are committed to use 0.25% of our GDP annually in this year and during next 4 years for your support, and that is approximately 105 million euros. But of course, in this year we put some extras. We bought from 25 million euros ammunition and put 10 millions to prioritized Ukraine defense or security needs. And that is what we afford in reality. As I already explained about the size and GDP of our country, maybe I understand your expectations are much bigger, but no, during that long arms race we will have with Russia and its totalitarian allies, we are taking more than 4% of GDP of the loan to the next year, and that is clear that to go on for next decades or couple of decades in that rate is very hard or even impossible to us. So we are just limited with our size, people, and GDP. And as I said, I can't promise here more than we can just do. We really can afford. So, as I said, if there will be so-called bad peace treaty, so we will start a count to time, and we must put great effort for increasing our wartime army defenses and everything related to this. And we are not, of course, US and some other countries are helping us too, but those sums are relatively small. No one will give us, for example, 3 or 5 billion in a year just to strengthen our defenses. We must just do that everything by ourselves. So those are factors which are limiting our ability to help you.
And my last topic for our discussion, and actually my last question about the future of Russia and its long-term consequences of the Kremlin policy. Because we know that peace in Europe can only be possible if not only the leadership in Russia would change, but the whole system which was built in Russia. And Russian propaganda is actively influencing its citizens, and even children are even being taught how to operate drones in Russian schools. What do you make of this, and what does it apply for the future of the region and of Europe, this Russian policy?
I am pretty skeptical about Russian future, because their main goal to restore empire will remain, and that is not only Putin's idea. That is idea of large parts of Russian society. When Russia will change after that, when Russia, as Germany after World War II, will recognize their deeds, their war crimes and everything. But I'm afraid that I will not see that in my lifetime. So we must be ready for a new Cold War, which is going sometimes hot, that is already in your case. And there is not only Russia, there are alliance of totalitarian powers. Russia would not be able to wage that war alone. There are their allies of different degree, as Iran, North Korea, and also China. China is now new leader of totalitarian powers, and China is gathering other lesser totalitarian powers around him, just into coalition. And if US administration just hopes that they can, as Kissinger did in the beginning of 70s, just to put wedge between Soviet Union and Red China, that is not possible. I do not think that should be possible, to just put wedge between Russia and China now, because their interests are too common and they have just learned their previous mistakes. So that effort which US administration is trying to achieve will not give any positive results. So that's my view. We must be ready for a long time confrontation. And as in the last Cold War, when we both were in different side of the war, as in this time, who would win? That was not clear from the beginning. So in order to our side to win, we must just put a lot of effort, a lot more effort into this. And that is how we can do this. That is possible, I think.
Mr. Kunnas, thank you very much for your insights and for this discussion.
You're welcome.